Welcome to Deep Thought. What if something isn't a disorder? And you know how I flow on here. Sometimes thoughts just come to me. And let me share a little bit about myself. I know I seem perfect, but I got a slight OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I don't have any problems admitting to it. I'm just like that. All right? I can be anal about some stuff. And some people who in certain circles know what that means. And I don't see it as a disorder. Because I thought about it the other day, because I'm that type. I'll check my locks on, like at the gym. I'll lock my locker and I'll walk out the locker room and then walk back in and make sure I locked it. And I always check stuff like that. And somebody would say that's a disorder. And it can be, like, let's just be real. Everything can be a disorder if you're obsessed with it. If it prevents you from doing the things you got to do, just living everyday life. But, okay, just with OCD, how much of a disorder is it? Because, you know, I've told y'all, I've mentioned on my other channels, I've worked 1,000 jobs. I've worked in the government, had businesses, sometimes I've had stuff at the same time, worked in gyms. I was, just as an aside, I was one of those people who would have 2 jobs and a business and still do like a volunteer day somewhere. And that's something else with me too. It's not a specific disorder, but I had a tendency to overwork. And it's something I work on now. I gotta, stop and smell the roses. But here's the thing. How is it, I was thinking about it because I used to work as a merchandiser at a major department store. I really could have actually moved up and instead of doing this, been like a regional director or vice president or something if I really wanted to advance in that company. But, of course, since I had 2 or 3 other jobs, I had my business and everything, I wasn't trying. But if you understand merchandising, it's really just making, putting the clothes out, making stuff look nice, hooking up outfits on mannequins, stuff like that, right? And, when people were doing their job there, merchandising, changing prices, we'd always joke about OCD. We would joke about it. And the thing it's actually good when you're in a profession where everything has to be precise, that's a good thing. Like I say, as long as it's not stopping you from just living life. Now, that's when something is a disorder, but that could be anything. That could be like seriously anything. And everybody got something. Let's just be real. Everybody. I don't care who you are, you got something. It's just a question of how much it stops you. Indeed, and you know how I flow on here. If you have, no matter what disorder or disability you have, if you can do a job legally, they have to hook you up. As long as you can do the particular job. So, that's something. But, I was thinking about the whole disorder thing. What if it isn't a disorder? We call it a disorder, but why? What if it's really your skill? What if it's really your skill? What if it's important that you're really focused on something? Like I use the term, I talk about autism. And yes, we do. We have some people who are on the spectrum and they need help. They need help. They need care and everything. That's why I say anything, regardless, if it prevents you from living life, you need help. Yeah, that's a concern, but you actually have a lot of people who are on the spectrum, and they might have lived to their 40s and 50s and didn't realize they were on the spectrum, but yet still did a lot of things. Is it a disorder? Or what if it's a part of their skill set? Because I'm aware of some young people right now who have that disorder, but they could probably hack your computer. They can computer program. They can do a lot of things. So how much of it is a disorder? Like, for example, people have theorized that Bill Gates is on the spectrum. Bill Gates. And I'm just like, well, how's it a disorder then for him? That's obviously not stopping him from doing anything. It's been theorized a lot of famous people have been on the spectrum. Actors, actresses, people like that. What did it really stop? Okay. Because one aspect of people I've seen on that spectrum is they can tend to stay focused on something. What's wrong with that? Is that a disorder? Maybe it's part of their mission. See, one of the things I like, because mentioning the autism thing, they have an autism subculture where they feel like, hey, nothing's wrong. Indeed, even I first got interested in things like that, like with the deaf culture. There's a lot of people, they don't have the hearing, they're deaf, but they don't see it as a dysfunction. They just see it as another way of being, and there's a distinct culture, even a language, American Sign Language, because I used to be able to communicate a little bit in that, but that was 2 decades ago. And that's because I was working at a specific government agency, the United States Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, Disability Rights Section. And I had some deaf coworkers who would take her lunch breaks and voluntarily teach other people deaf American Sign Language. Plus, she was fine, so I was motivated to be there, and I learned a lot of nuances from that culture. Because a lot of times I think a problem we have in this society is not just respecting everybody's differences and how they think. It's like we have a culture where it says you have to think this way, you have to do this, you have to be extroverted. And it was just like, to me, it was like, no, they just think differently. Just find what they would be good at doing. Like, okay, let me use that autism thing. Again, I remember seeing a video about this guy. He actually his son was on the spectrum. And he actually, this gentleman, he actually created a car wash. And he hired specifically young men who were on the spectrum. And the thing was, he said, the thing is, they were very, very good at cleaning those cars. Cars went through the car wash and everything because they were just really focused on what they had to do. So how's that a bad thing? See, everybody, one of the things, and I would always suggest, everybody find out what they're good at. Now, I started out talking about the example of, working as a merchandiser. And like I said, it was like a running joke. Somebody like really fix something. They say, oh, yeah, my OCD kicking in. And we didn't see it as a bad thing. But how was that really, especially how was it bad if, we set up something in such a way and people buy it and make money off of it? And we need to think about that with other things too. Is it really a disorder? Or is it just a different way of thinking, a different way of being, a different talent? Because if someone could tap into that thing and use it in a positive way, boom. See, I'm going to tell you one of the biggest things that's a problem. Like, everybody feel like everybody should be extroverted, everybody should know this, do this. But no. Everybody got their mission. Everybody got that mission. And even that disorder thing, a lot of it's political. I'm just going to say it. A lot of it's political because, you have certain forces in society that want you to think and behave in a certain way. And then when you don't, they say you have a problem. Indeed, look at a lot of stuff that maybe 100 years ago would have been considered dysfunctional, a disorder, but is taken as a norm nowadays. Believe it or not, just being... There were cultures, there were times, just simply being outgoing or happy, just being happy and stuff. They think, oh, something's wrong with them. Yeah. And like I said, though, but something is an issue if it stops you from really living. It is an issue at that point. Like if you can't really take care of yourself or something like that, okay, then that's an issue. But if you're somebody, and this is according to... Americans with Disabilities Act, if you can work, if you can take care of yourself, you can't be discriminated against. You know? So I want y'all to think about that. Think about that. Indeed, you know, well, I ain't going to share that part. That gets into a deeper thing. But, you know, really think about that. What if something isn't a disorder? Really think about that, too. All right? So anyway, that's all we got for today. I'll talk to y'all. Peace and blessings.